Hey listeners, Dan Harris here, host of the 10% Happier podcast. Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible Originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Harris or text Harris to 500-500.
The weather is cooling down a bit. The leaves are starting to fall. Yes, it's that time of year again, football season. And we all know the best part of any game day traditions are the ones that involve food. There's nothing like having everyone in your game day crew coming together to bring their best bites and argue over whose family makes the best chili. And while there's no need to mess with the perfection of game day classics, like a freshly grilled Oscar Mayer hot dog topped with Heinz ketchup and mustard, it's always fun to step out of your comfort zone and get creative with your recipes. Because there's nothing more fun than adding to your list of game day traditions, like making a creamy and delectable queso dip with Velveeta cheese that can be eaten with so much more than just chips. Now is the chance for people across the nation to find out whose game day eats reign supreme. It's your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food tradition to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
Hey, Tom, ready for a great show? It's Monday in New York. It's playoff time, and it's the best time of the year.
Yes, it is. I love playoff time. That used to be so much fun. You know, the grind of the regular season ends, and all of a sudden now it's playoff time. Especially if you get going on a roll, where now the weather gets nicer, and then you're not as much practice, just playing games, really feeling good about yourself. Yeah, it's fun. It is a fun time, yeah.
You do a lot of events at the Garden during the playoffs. You get swept
Yes.
up in Holmania, the playoff.
Yeah. The Rangers really do a fantastic job of entertaining the fans. They have that fan zone down the city near the Garden. We do that a lot. As they go farther and the weather gets nicer, we're out in Central Park watching the games. Yeah, a lot of fun stuff. The fans really get into it. I was at a friend's lacrosse game on Saturday. Ranger fans had their jerseys on at the lacrosse game and everything. So
I mean, it's the best time of the year, especially when the Rangers are going well.
yeah, definitely.
Let's just do a quick. We'll go through what's happening in the playoffs right now, and then we'll end with the Rangers and Devils. But Colorado, they lost the first game. They're up 2-1 on Seattle. It's pretty much what you expected, right?
Yeah, and I like Colorado. Again, they without Landeskog, and obviously we don't have Kadri, who was a big player for him last season. He moved on to Calgary. So they're not the team they were last year. But, man, that team with Nathan McKinnon and Makar on their team, I think they upgraded their goaltending with Georgiev. So I still like them. But, again, they're not quite the same team because of those players they lost. But they should win this series against Seattle.
Seattle's been very scrappy, but yeah, I figure Colorado will probably take that. Vegas is up 2-1 on Winnipeg.
Yeah, I'm not a big Vegas fan, largely because of that Jack Eichel, but they do have a lot of other pieces there. I like Stone a lot, the big defenseman Pietrangelo. So they should beat Winnipeg. But Winnipeg's a scrappy team as well. They're a hard team, especially to play in their own building. That's quite a building.
But your buddy Jack Eichel had a big game the other day too.
Yeah,
He's leading the way now.
he's a culture killer. Culture killer, we call him.
All right, well, Dallas, Minnesota, great series. I've seen a bunch of that. Tied up 2-2. Just a great series.
Yeah, Minnesota's pounding them too. They get a hard team. They play hard. I think a lot of people really discounted them. They had trouble with the cap. They had to lose Parisi and Suter, but they play hard.
So there was a controversial call last night on Foligno. They led to a power play goal. They weren't. Minnesota was not happy, but great series 2-2. And another great series is the Edmonton-LA series, which is
Well, I mean, I think to me it's going to be Edmonton and the Rangers ultimately in the finals. But Edmonton is getting all they can get getting all they can take from LA. LA's got that good young scrappy team. They've got some veteran players there still, so that's good hockey. I like that.
Well, like when you were out there with the Kings and playing the mighty Oilers. Yeah. Toronto's up 2-1 on Tampa. You know how crazy people are in Toronto as a guy from Brantford.
Yeah, Brampton. There you go. I don't like the Toronto makeup. Listen, if they win, I'd love to see them win. They haven't won the first round in a long time. I don't think their goaltending is good enough. I think Tampa's Tampa's lost a lot of players from their cup-winning teams, but they still are the Tampa Bay Lightning that have won cups before, so they know how to do it. I'm still going to pick Tampa. I don't like Toronto's goaltending. I think at some point it's really going to let them down.
Yep. And Boston is taking a commanding lead on Florida, 3-1, expected.
Yeah, I think Florida came out early and really pounded Boston. I don't know what's his name, Patrice Bergeron. Is he back playing? I don't think he is yet. I can't remember, but he's a huge part of that team. So if they win without him in the lineup, that's big for them. Rest him up a little bit, get him back in the lineup. But Boston's the real deal. I think everybody said, well, they're really going to be able to do what they did during the regular season, and so far they have done that.
So far they're doing it. Yeah, and of course, then we get to the big one, the Battle of the Hudson. The Rangers Devils. When we first did our first playoff show, it was a great night for the Rangers. They won 5-1. They matched it, but then they lost the third game at home.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was surprised. The first game, they say, okay, the Devils players were overwhelmed, all the young players. Now they come back and the Rangers win again 5-1. I probably played better, more of a dominating game. I was really surprised by that, pleasantly surprised. But then, coming back, I think, with the young players playing at home, sometimes you try to do too much in front of your home fans, right? Especially when you're young players. Just do your job. We're playing. I think that was much more the case for the Devils in New York. So great hockey. And this series is far from over. I mean, again, I'm confident with the Rangers, largely because of the offense they've got and the Shesterkin and net. But again, the Devils are a good young hockey team. What they did really well, I thought, early in the game against the Devils was really go after Hughes and hit him as much as possible. He got going a little bit more later on, but they've got to continue that and play the body.
Devils made the goaltending change too, which was
yeah,
right. Paid off.
Yeah, definitely. How about the Islanders?
Islanders are in trouble. They're down. Yeah, they had they won the home game, first playoff home game, but now they're up against it right now.
Yeah, I thought Horvat's comments after the game were really interesting. He took the onus on himself to listen, I've got to score bigger goals at a bigger time. I can't score a goal late in a 5-0 game. Yeah, it's just the same old thing with the Islanders. They can't score goals. That series is pretty much over.
All right. And that's, next time we check in, we'll see where the Rangers and the rest of the teams are. But yeah, it's been a great playoff so far. It's only going to get better.
My prediction should be 100%, just so you know, too.
Usually, we'll check that to make sure.
Totally. Check the tape.
All right, we've got some listener feedback.
So all right, I like this. They talk about how great I am?
Well, everyone does. Everyone.
Okay.
Well, Nate Brown from Minnesota, he said that he wants more goalies on the show.
Oh.
And he wants less cooking talk, because apparently we were talking about recipes at the live event.
Oh, we're here.
So
I'm an expert chef. I have to talk about my cooking. What is wrong with me?
Self-appointed expert chef, though.
Yeah. I made black bean burgers yesterday for the Sunday cooking show.
See, there you go. So spread that around. Maybe you should
take that, Nate.
All right. Marcus Fajardo in Spain. I think he's pumping up our numbers.
You can't get our numbers up in Spain. That's right. We were number 1.
Well, Marcus, who's a hockey player himself and a damn good one, he loves the Ranger content and wants us to get Darren Turcotte on the show. So we got to work on
Okay. Very good. Yeah, Darren Kirk. It'd be good.
All right, then we have another one. We have Brian Kaplan, who's a lawyer in New York City, who actually I know is a friend of mine. He said this show feels like the Howard Stern show. He feels like he's in the room with us.
Oh.
And he feels like he knows us. And I said, well, you do know me.
You know what? We've talked about this privately too. We're getting better at it too. I think having the feel for the show more. When to dump it up. So some of the guys that get great stories, they may not always be good talkers, right? Or good storytellers. Some of the guys you've had on, like Mick Fakota, was a fantastic story. He surprised me. He was a great storyteller. Yeah.
Patrick was great too. He was telling stories. People love to hear about him do his crossovers on his knees.
That was one of the funniest things. And he tells the story fantastic too. Like, he'd make fun of himself. But if people had to say, it was a practice we had, and the coaches wanted him to skate to the blue line, drop down on his knees, and then get up and do crossovers across the blue line. He didn't realize the getting up part, so he tried to do crossovers on his knees. And Ron Gresher, myself, and Barry Beckman in the corner just cried laughing. And when James tells the story, he's fantastic to tell it too. He really tells it. It's a good story.
And people should go back and listen to that episode. It was it's a great one.
Yeah.
And that's some of our listener feedback. They seem pretty split on. They love the Ranger stuff, but they also like hearing guys from the other teams too. So it's kind of a good mix of the way it's going.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to ask you this: Do you ever, like, now that it's legal, do you ever gamble? Do you ever bet on games?
No, I've never. You know what? I never have enjoyed gambling. In fact, I think the players taught me a lesson early. My rookie year, we went out and had a few cocktails in Rye. Then went back to John Davidson's house, and I wanted to fit in with the guys, so I played poker with John Davidson and Eddie Johnstone. They took me for about $250, which was big money back then.
Yeah.
And I got up in the morning because I didn't know how to play poker. I just wanted to hang out with the guys, and they were poker experts. So no.
stay out of that. But I don't gamble. I don't bet. But now it's legal. People, there's lots of prop bets. So it was my brother in South Carolina, my brother Damien, on Monday he bet an 8-leg parlay. He bet $50, and so basically he took 4 games and 4 players to score.
Right.
He went 7 out of 8.
Oh,
and
wow.
Missed. He had Florida to lose the game to Boston, and then he flipped at the end to have them win.
Oh.
And the payout on an 8-leg parlay at $50 was $106,000.
Oh, wow. Just because of that one flip?
One flip.
So did you get anything for getting 7 out of 8?
Negative 50.
Oh.
Yeah, he missed out on a huge
I was listening to Boomer and Gio in the morning there on CBS Sports, and they got into the talk about betting. And I guess in the NFL, you can't bet, even though it's legal, you can't bet inside the team facilities on any sport, even though you're allowed to outside of it. You can't do it. That's a rule the NFL has. I guess the players got suspended doing that.
But then you text someone and say, hey, put this in for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Were guys betting when you were playing? Were people...
A little bit. It wasn't a big thing, but I did hear a lot of stories when guys started making more money, like guys like Yarmer Yager, like he'd bring a bag of cash, like bring a bag of like 50 grand on the road because he had to pay off a bookie or something like that. Like the famous one most recently is Vander Kane, when he was playing in, where was he playing? San Jose, right? When he supposedly did all the betting.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
It's crazy to think. I mean, I get the thrill of it, but it's just nuts to think of.
Yeah. Well, it can be an addiction too, obviously, right? Like, what's his name? Craig Carton. It's on the radio. I'm pretty good friends with him, and he got in a lot of trouble. Spent like 3 years in jail and a lot of stuff. He just got hooked on it so bad he just couldn't control it. So,
however, some of these prop bets, especially in the playoffs, are kind of fun to look at. But, yeah. I just I don't think I have the guts to get involved.
I know. Yeah. I think he's kind of scary, right? Like you start doing it, can you control yourself? I'm assuming you can. A lot of people do, but tough to do. What if anybody would bet for me like to score a winning goal or something like that?
The odds got to be amazing. That's what you did. You scored 24 times. How many game-winning goals did you have?
I don't know.
It
was 25. Okay, it's 25.
Oh, sorry, 20. Oh,
yeah, you're up by 1. You're up by 1. Don't cheat me on that one.
How many playoff goals?
I think I did pretty well. Like, I think on a per game basis, I think more in the playoffs than I did in the regular season, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but yeah, it was more.
Clutch goals though, big time Tommy.
I scored 1 goal one time in Edmonton, and it was a beautiful goal. He went up over the goalie's shoulder, the short side, but I had no clue how I did that. I was just getting rid of it. I wanted to get it off my stick. That's something I learned that from a lot of good goal scorers. They don't necessarily pick a corner all the time. They just want to get it to a certain side of the net. Stuff happens,
but that's their goal scorers though.
I know. And I tell you, I had one breakaway in the NHL. Came out of the penalty box. Somebody looked it up too. The film. I came out of the penalty box, had a breakaway. One time, one of the listeners went and found it. I think it was a game against Pittsburgh at the Garden. Went down on the breakaway. I didn't want to miss the net, so I shot it right into his chest. The guys, I come back to the bench. They go, "Nice warm up shot, Tom. That was good. We're warm up goalie."
We got a great guest coming up. People can love, and people who are enjoying our show, I hope they can like, subscribe, and if they want to, leave us a review. That helps us on Apple Podcasts. And we'll keep providing this great content for everybody.
Definitely get more Darren Turcotte on, some goaltenders. So goaltenders, you can't get them to stop talking. Like you get Glenn Healy on, it'd be like a 5-hour show.
Oh, we've had Glenn. We've had Clint Malarchuk. We have
Kelly Rudy.
So Kelly Rudy's coming.
Yeah,
good one.
That was a good story. I tell you, he really opened up about his own mental health issues, and that was really, you could tell he wanted to do it because he knew he was going to help other people. So that was very cool.
Yeah, and our listeners should know we have a lot of great episodes covered. We've taped quite a bunch of these, so people are going to really be excited by who we have on this show coming up.
Yeah, some good guys. So really compelling stories too, right? We've talked about it before. Where of the 40-some shows we've done, 4 of the guys have attempted suicide and are very open in discussing it, and have really turned their lives around and are helping other people now too. So
that's the beautiful part, is that they have been very down, but they've recovered and they're in a good spot now. And it's they turned, which is awesome.
Definitely, yeah. Tom gets to see how messed up old hockey players are.
Yeah, and you guys all are, but so are we all, right? We're all you.
It is funny because Tom and I have become pretty good friends here, and between shows we sit around and talk about stuff, and I tell him stories, and he looks at me sometimes. He goes, "You're a mess, right?" Like,
I mean, in a good way.
And yes, I know. It's funny. Actually, my friend here has helped me a lot and stuff that I really had to wake up and learn to. When we talk about mental health a lot, people reaching out and getting help, and I realized, man, maybe I gotta look in the mirror, Tom. It's another show.
We all need to do that.
Yeah, since I've done it too, it's really a lot of people reached out to me like they're really happy. I did a podcast yesterday out of Toronto with 2 young guys called the. I can't remember what it's called. I'll get the name for you, but it was pretty cool. And this one guy had lost 70 pounds, and it wasn't just because of me, but it was like he's taught me being a real inspiration because you opened up and talked about your issues. Now everybody else feels more comfortable talking about their issues as well.
That's great. Once you do that, yeah, especially you as a former professional hockey player, survivor, guest.
That's right. I was on Survivor, if you know that or not.
You were a guest. You did a guest spot. It was a good one. You have that notoriety, and that helps. And you say, "Hey, look, I'm flawed." So
That is the thing, right? Realizing that just when you first get to the realization that you're flawed, like we were joking before, I lived this whole life where I just felt like I was perfect. And I'm not trying to say it's an egotistical way; it's more of a bad way. We live the life there all the time. We're being told how great we are as athletes, so you start to believe it after a while, and then you realize, maybe not.
Yeah, I'm just a regular dude with some athletic talent, and you're a nice. Obviously, you look in the mirror, you like what you see because you do it a lot.
It's important to look in the mirror, like what you see. Just don't look too long. You gotta get back to work. Whether it's looking in the actual mirror or looking at your grades in school or looking how your marriage is doing, it's important to look at the things you're doing in your life and say, "This, I'm working hard at it, and things are going good."
Yes, it's self-assessment. It's always important to check with yourself and see where you're at.
See, that's a good word. There's self-assessment. The 2 words, and that was good the way you did that. That was intelligent.
Yeah, check in with yourself, check in with your friends, check in with people, make sure everyone's okay in your life, and enjoy this next guest.
Yes, that's right, too. This will be a good show. Very interesting guy coming up here.
Hello, Tom.
Yes, sir. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Tom. We have a fascinating guest today. Now, as you know, I didn't play in the NHL, but I was a fan of the NHL, especially as a kid.
Right.
And when I was 8 or 9, I was convinced that I was Swedish because the Rangers had imported 2 Swedish players, Anders Hedberg, and today's guest, Ulf Nilsson.
Ulf Nilsson. What's happening, brother? How are you?
I'm doing great.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yeah, I was a rookie. I came in 80, 81. And how many years had you been in New York when I came in?
Yeah, I came in 78, 79.
Okay.
And it was a rough time for me, really, because it was hard to play in Winnipeg for 4 years when we got hacked. And it was like bench brawling every game.
Oh, was it that bad? Oh, wow.
It was really bad.
I remember coming in because Ulfie's like a true gentleman, classy guy. Here I come in with the cowboy hat, the cowboy boots, and he's looking at me like, "What? Who are you?" Seriously, it wasn't a bad way. You were right. I mean, I was like, "You're here in New York City, dressed up properly, and everything, and I've got the cowboy hat on." I'd like to get into your mind what you're really thinking about when I came in. So, all right. So, let's get at it here. I want to know more about your growing up playing hockey. Where did you grow up? What city in Sweden?
Yeah, just south of Stockholm, called Nynäshamn.
Okay.
It was a small city of only 10,000 people at the time. Maybe now it's double, but it's an hour, 45 minutes by car south of Stockholm.
Sure. And were you like a hockey player right away, like 6 years old, put the skates on, and you were great?
Well, in Sweden in those days, most of the kids played soccer in the summertime and hockey, or they call it bandy, with a curved stick and on ice, and it's 11 against 11. It's on a soccer field, and it's kind of a fun game too. It's a fast.
So there's no real hockey the way we know it.
Oh yeah, we played hockey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I was actually recruited to AIK in Stockholm when I was 17 years old as a soccer player.
Oh.
Because my father played the clubs in Sweden. They have, soccer and hockey and all kinds of other sports as well. So my father played there for 10 years, soccer for AIK in Stockholm.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. But unfortunately, he passed away when I was 13 and my sister was 9. He died of a heart attack at 43.
Wow. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So you played hockey a lot, just the youth hockey, the same way they do over here?
Yeah. And they have a big tournament for 15 and 16 years old. It's called the TV Puck.
Huh?
And it's like each state or the big cities have their own team. And I played for Stockholm then. And I played on the same line as Rolf Edberg that played in Washington for a while.
Oh, okay.
He and I were line mates when we were 16.
Wow. So that's comparable to the junior hockey that they play over here, or college hockey, right?
Well, then you played like in your club team, but this was like an all-star team. Yeah. And I was recruited then as a soccer player when I was 17.
Right.
And it was one guy in AIK that played both soccer and hockey. And I was trying to do that, but then I felt hockey was much better for my temperament, I think. And the coach in the AIK soccer team, he wasn't really keen about me, and they didn't let me play that much. Well, I played with the second team then, and then they asked me if I wanted to play hockey, and they had two older guys that played for the Swedish national team. The goaltender was one of the best, and he was voted the best goaltender in a couple of the World Cups, and they had a defenseman also. And the coach said, "It's great, Ulf, that you work hard in practice, but it's like music for a 17-year-old to hear the coach say those things." And then this decision for me wasn't that difficult.
Sure. Now, were you always a big goal scorer?
Well, as a forward, yeah, you hope that you can be more of an assist and a goal scorer. So in Winnipeg, it turned out that I was more of a playmaker,
right?
Playing with Anderson on the right side and Bobby Hall on the left side.
Not a bad line. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Bobby Hall. We'll talk about it later. But when he came to training camp my second year, that was unbelievable. But we'll touch on that later on. So then you're playing this club team. At what point then do you turn pro?
When I was 24.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
First couple of years, I was picked to play for the Swedish junior national team. In those days, it wasn't World Juniors like it is today. It's a big tournament for under 20, I guess it is nowadays.
Yeah.
But we played the European championship. It was against the Russians, against the Czechs, and against the Finns, and so it was a couple of other countries as well. So when I played with Börje Salming for 2 years.
Oh, did you really? Wow.
The national team.
Wow.
And Anders was on that team as well.
Wow.
But we were never line mates on the junior national team.
Was that Lars Erik Sjöberg? Was he on that team?
Yeah, well, he was a little older.
Oh, okay.
He played for the top national team.
Right.
And I got picked to play my first World Cup or World Championship, it was called in those days. That was in Moscow, 1973.
Wow.
And it was a great experience because the Russians in those days, they were so scientific professionals.
Sure.
So it was no competition. Everybody played for silver or bronze. Gold was the Russians every year.
Yeah, we learned that. We learned that in Canada in 1972. We thought we were going to kick their butts there, but they're pretty good.
Yeah. And in those days, in Sweden, the top league wasn't professional. So everybody went to school or they had a job. We practiced at 6 o'clock, usually 3 times a week.
Right.
And played the 2 games, Thursday and Sunday games. So it wasn't like in North America, you play a schedule of 70 or 80 games and then you have playoffs. We played maybe around 30 games a year. Wow. So it's a big difference.
So Wolf, how do you go from playing in Sweden to getting recruited to the WHA?
Well, it was Tommy Bergman went to Detroit 1972. That was sort of the first wave. And then Börje Salming and Hammerström went to Toronto 73. And then it was talk who is going to be pros after the World Cup in Moscow 73. So it was about Sjöberg, myself, Anders was the 3 guys that everybody was talking about for the turn pro.
Now, were you drafted, Ulfie, or did you just do your free?
Drafted. And so in those days, the NHL teams just send in a fax to the NHL office. I will protect the rights for Ulf Nilsson or Anders Hedberg and Lars-Erik. So I belong to Buffalo.
Oh, wow.
So 74, if I would have turned pro to the NHL, I would have had to go to Buffalo. And they had a pretty good team.
Sure.
Perot and those guys.
That's right, yeah. Now, did they come and talk to you before they selected you?
No.
No?
I guess they were scouting the World Championship in Moscow 73. And then they said, well, we like this guy, but he never talked to me or anything like that. So,
Right.
And Anders belonged to Toronto.
Oh.
And Lars-Erik Schuberg belonged to Minneapolis or Minnesota.
Right.
So then we were discussing, because Bobby Hull was part of starting the WHA in 72.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a doctor he was a team doctor in Winnipeg when they started off, but he was on a sabbatical in Sweden. So he had his family over in Sweden, and they played the Pee-wee or Bantam hockey in Sweden, his kids. And Kerry Wilson was one of his sons that played pro.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jerry said to Winnipeg, well, these three guys, Schuberg, Nilsson, and Hedberg, you should take them to Winnipeg. And Bobby was really tired. He had sort of carried the league for 2 years on his shoulders. Like it was very hard. And so they asked us, because we thought it was going to be so much easier if we moved to a new country, that we could have some impact on the style we're going to play.
Sure.
So that was one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my whole life.
Okay.
But my wife disagreed with me.
Yeah, Winnipeg in the winter isn't it too? No kidding.
Yeah, that's true.
Nice first year though. You put up 94 assists that first year playing with Bobby Hull. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really fantastic. The first time we went out on the ice, we were just in sweats and skated with the University of Manitoba team, and Bobby was ready to go and play 74. They played the Russians.
Oh, that's
WHA.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it was amazing. And Bobby said, Jesus, this is going to be a fantastic season. So he's been telling a lot of people that we gave him 4 extra years on his career.
Right.
Because he was already 35 when we came over. And I had to stop playing when I was 32. Didn't have anything left in my body.
I know, yeah. So you played for 4 years there in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Did you guys win, was it the Avco Cup? Is that the championship trophy?
Yeah.
Did you win that?
We won it the second year.
Right.
And we won it the fourth year.
Oh, okay.
And the third year we lost 7th game in the final against Quebec Nordiques.
Oh, wow.
And they had a really good team with Mark Tardif, J.C. Trombley, Rishan Hull, quite a lot of good players.
So how were you treated at WHA? Was it first class, like flying first class hotels? Not.
We were flying like the NHL teams more. It was not charter flights in those days.
Yeah.
But and the salaries were okay, I think for those days.
Right.
And so. But we saw a lot of Chicago airport and Minneapolis airport.
Oh, yeah.
Because we played in cities like San Diego, Houston, Phoenix. So it was a great place to go to when it was 20 below in Winnipeg.
So meantime, you're leaving your wife back in Winnipeg and you're flying to Houston.
Yeah.
That's a strong marriage right there if you stayed married through all that.
Yeah, but we got divorced in 1996.
Oh, okay. So she survived through Winnipeg, but she couldn't survive you. Is that what it was?
No.
And so, okay, so 4 years in Winnipeg. How do you get to New York Rangers then? You're a free agent again?
Well, then we were free agents. We were not free agents in the first place,
right?
Because Buffalo had protected me, but then we'd been working with Don Basley.
Oh yeah, great guy.
Unfortunately, he passed away with cancer about 6 or 8 years ago now. But he was an amazing hockey, or he was like a lawyer.
Yeah.
And started helping a lot of Swedish and Finnish players.
What a real gentleman too. What a great guy he was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He had Joe Sakic and Theo Fleury and
he had a lot of top guys. Matt's son, I think too, right? Or no, Matt's wasn't. No, he didn't have Matt's. No.
But you were in that business for a while.
Yeah, I was that agent for 22 years, so I got to know Don very well. He's a really well-respected guy in a business that is kind of some shady characters, but he was way up above it. He was very successful, really carried himself like a real gentleman. I just had a ton of respect for him.
So he traveled around our last year when we realized that Bobby didn't have it anymore. Like it was like at 39, like his game is not like Gordie Howe.
Yeah.
Like Bobby is speed and up tempo, and Gordie is down tempo.
Sure.
Controlling the game in a way. When I played against Gordie when he was 52.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
I was happy he retired before I got there because I've heard all the stories about how nasty he was, and I was like,
about his elbows.
Oh yeah.
So we really wanted to, because we had won twice in Winnipeg.
Yep. Sure.
And so we said, now we want to really give it a chance in the NHL. And it came down to 3 teams. It was Philadelphia Flyers.
Oh.
It was Chicago Blackhawks and the New York Rangers.
Oh.
And at the time, John Ferguson was the general manager of the New York Rangers. So, but we had signed after our first contract in Winnipeg. We signed a 5-year deal with Winnipeg.
Oh.
But we had a clause that we could leave Winnipeg after total of 4 years there. And but Winnipeg wanted to have a clause in the contract that they could match whatever offer.
Oh, nice.
And then we had to stay. We had to stay 2 more years in Winnipeg.
Right.
So Don went around and these 3 teams were really keen on getting us.
Right.
And I think Flyers had a good team with Clarkey and his bullies in those days. But they had a lawyer that was also working for the league, Gil Stein.
Oh yeah, I remember Gil Stein. Sure.
And he came up with the solution to the matching clause that Winnipeg had. Why don't the guys sign 2 contracts? One that is really high, that we show Winnipeg, a contract that is much lower that we were going to play for. And both Anders and I, when Don told us that story, I said, I don't want to play for that club.
Did you decide to be a package deal when you left Winnipeg?
We were not a package deal when we went to Winnipeg, but after the first year, when we signed the 5-year contract, we were a package deal from then on. But and then Chicago, because it was like bidding between Chicago and New York, and I think it was Bob Fulford,
Bob Fulford,
general manager of the Chicago Blackhawks in those days.
Yeah,
and he had promised to call Don. I don't know the date, but a day, and he didn't call him. So, because he was talking to the owners of Chicago,
right?
And Don called him in the morning, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or something like that, and asked him, how did it go when you talked to the brothers about upping their offer? Well, no, they're not gonna go for that much money.
Mm-hmm.
So then Don did hang up with Fulford. Then he called Bill Jennings, that was the president
of the Rangers.
The Rangers at the time, and he said, "Well, Bill, the boys are ready to sign with the New York Rangers now because Chicago is pulled out." "I already know," said Bill Jennings.
Yeah.
that is collusion and racketeering. They're not supposed to talk about these things between the clubs.
Well, but I don't know if I know Pulford. When I had Brian Berard as a client, he did the same thing. Brian was with the Boston Bruins. We went to arbitration, and then they pulled out of the arbitration decision, so that made him a free agent. But Pulford, before he signed him, wanted to call the Boston, just kind of give him a heads up what they're doing. So I don't know if it's totally collusion, though, is it? Because you guys really weren't property of any team in the National Hockey League at that time.
No, we weren't. No.
But either way,
I don't know. But anyway, so we had then agreed to play for $475,000 per year,
right,
for 2 years. So that was a big,
sure.
Over what everybody else was.
Oh, so that's what, 1978?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
My first year salary in 81 was $60,000. So that's a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sonny Werblin had met us. You remember Sonny Werblin?
Oh, yep. Good guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He ran Gulf from Western, right? Yeah.
So he said to Ferguson, "Are these really good players?" Because we went down to have dinner with him and Jack Crumpy.
Yeah, I remember him.
Suite 200.
Yeah.
Because we had played Hartford the night before. And so the Rangers were going to play. And in those days, it was like 10, 12,000 at the game.
Right.
So they didn't fill. And
really? Madison Square Garden was not filled?
The year before. Yeah.
Oh.
So Sonny Werblin then found out about this clause.
Right.
That Winnipeg could match. So if they are good players, like you said, to Fergie, we'll up the offer.
Oh, really?
$600,000 a year.
Oh, nice. I was thinking that was going to happen. Yeah.
It's from $475. We didn't think that that clause was going to do that. But Werblin, he was signing Joe Namath to the Jets.
Yeah.
So he said, I need some players like that the journalists and the newspapers in New York will write about and make the interest. And from then on, it's been a sellout in the Madison Square, more or less.
Right.
Oh, were you guys the highest paid hockey players at the time?
Yeah, we were.
Well, didn't Derek Sanders sign for $1 million a year?
That's WHA.
But hockey players, right?
Well, NHL players. Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, Bobby signed for $1 million.
That's right.
When in 72. But then his salary was $250,000 for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
And in those days, I think Phil Esposito was the highest, and he was on the team when we came.
Right.
And Phil, he was asked by a lot of journalists, "What do you think about these Swedes now coming in and making $600,000 a year?" I don't care. He said, "No, I know what I'm going to ask for next time."
Yeah, that's Phil. I was going to say that sounds like Phil right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And remember, back in those days, there was no real salary disclosure. Like now, everybody is all,
It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't.
It wasn't until like 1992, I think it was, before they had the salaries.
But that was Eagleson. He didn't like it.
Totally.
He wanted, and the owners in those days, they didn't want the salary closer. So
yeah, that was one of the biggest reasons salaries took off, because everybody else knew what everybody else was making. I think Dave Taylor was making more money than Wayne Gretzky at the time when it first came out. So Wayne obviously said that's not cutting it. So yeah.
So that was a great first year though, 78, 79. You want to talk us through that one a little bit?
Yeah. Well, it was probably my best year, before I broke my ankle in February of 79, and that chant is still going on.
Oh yeah. A lot of people don't know that's where it all started with you breaking your ankle. Yeah, that's right.
But didn't you say that he actually, you caught a rut and it wasn't him?
Yeah, like in those days, they didn't know how to make ice in the Madison Square Garden. That every other night or in the afternoon they were playing basketball, because I think I had 69 points after 50 games or something like that.
Was that the year they went to the finals?
Yeah.
Was right?
Yeah. So I played the first 2 games up in Montreal. But when you break your ankle, the bone was probably healed, but all the ligaments and tendons were so sore and things like that. So I couldn't really Yeah.
So you missed from the time you got hurt until the playoffs against Montreal, and you played.
Yeah.
You tried to play.
Yeah, I skated a little bit like lightly before, but I didn't play against the Islanders in the semifinal.
Oh.
That was JD when he stood on his head.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So my 5 years in New York, well, and like I was more or less down because my hip was starting to hurt, my knees were bad and things like that. So it was a really uphill battle to really play good in New York. Yeah. So, but my 5 years there, we lost to Montreal in the Stanley Cup final the first year, and then we lost to the Islanders in the playoffs every year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The last couple of seasons there.
Well, that 80-81 season was my first, and we really were on a roll there. We beat LA, the big brawl in St. Louis.
Yeah.
But the Islanders were yeah.
Ulf, how do you feel that chant has endured for 40 years and you're at the center of that?
Well, I think I've always been saying that the Ranger fans are so jealous that Potvin has 4 cups and we have maybe one.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't win until 94, I guess.
Right.
So I think that was what created it, that they were so pissed off at Potvin.
Yeah. Part of it, yeah. He's such a great player too.
Oh, yeah.
So 80-81, Freddie Shero gets fired, and then Herb Brooks comes in the following season. You were still there when Herbie came in, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. How'd you get along with Herb?
Very well. Very well.
Yeah, I can see he's your kind of guy, right? You're his kind of guy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But it was like I only played, what was it, 170 games in 5 years?
Oh.
Because I was, Anders and I more or less, the year before you came, we missed the whole year.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh.
Yeah. Well, played a few games and things like that. But it's kind of, one thing to feel good about is that I have 169 points in 170 games.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
There aren't too many guys that have 1 point a game.
Right.
No, I don't think Tom has 169 points career.
That's true.
Yeah, but he was a defenseman.
Did you have like a brutal introduction to the NHL, or at that time had it come down for the Swedish players?
Yeah, it had come down, I think. Mario Marwa, you played with him.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And he was with the Rangers when we came, 78, 79. And we played a couple of exhibition games in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the way Anders and I played against Philly, because we were not scared of those guys at all.
Yeah.
And he said, that's when you earn the respect.
Yeah,
from
that's true.
The teammates in New York. So it was not bad at all, because it's like, it depends on how you are as a person. But I lost all the fear when I got hit in the beginning of a game.
Sure. Yeah.
I got so.
Yeah, you just get it. Yeah, you just get it through your head. Listen, I'm not going to fight these guys, but I'm not going to stop playing my game. And then, at that point, they can't do anything to you because you just won't fight.
Yeah.
So at the start of my second year, 81, 82, that's Herb Brooks' first year. We're going over to Finland for training camp. Finland for training camp. We're also stopping in Stockholm to play some games too. And your old buddy shows up again, Bobby Hull, to go to training camp.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was. I guess then Anders and I were hurt.
Oh, were you? Oh, okay, but you still went over to training camp though, right? Yeah, I know you did.
Yeah,
because we had a couple little parties that I remember we had. Okay.
Yeah. But
Bobby Hull was a legendary guy. So as a kid, my father, growing up right outside of Toronto, somehow got me into Maple Leaf Gardens the day of a game, morning skate, and Chicago was there. Bobby Hull came out and stood there and talked to me for like 10 minutes. I was a little kid, and I just could not believe it. It was incredible. So here I am now. You fast forward to 81, 82. He's now coming to training camp. We go to lunch in Rye. We were at some, I can't remember what it was. They're all sitting around for lunch. Sat there for about 3 hours and listened to Bobby Hull tell stories. And I was just like, it was incredible. It was a little personal highlights. It's like, I can't believe I'm sitting here with Bobby Hull. You were probably sitting there as well, but it was a blast.
But then you can imagine what it was like for me and Anders to come over when he was still really a great player.
Yeah, and a great personality too, right? It wasn't like he's such a fiery guy. The personality is, What year did you retire then? Was it next year, 82, 83?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the middle of the season, I realized that I could hardly lace up my skates.
Right. That was, remember, because Phil retired middle of the 81 season. Walt Kachuk got hurt and had to retire, I think, that season as well. Then you retired. So those are all sentiment. And I remember I was doing an interview with Mike Allison. You remember Mike Allison? And then he was, I mean, he got kind of thrown into it because all these centermen are retirement, and he was a young centerman coming up. So
Yeah.
So did you stay around New York after a while, after the game?
I stayed until 1999.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
We lived up in Scarsdale. And I was working for a Swedish beverage company. Sonny Werby wanted me to stay with the Rangers, but I don't know why. I was so tired. I was so beaten up. So I didn't have the passion for the game.
Yeah. Yeah, you do get to that point later on in your career where you're getting hurt all the time. And I went through the same thing. It's like, what is going on? Especially when you're younger and you don't get hurt, or you can play through injuries, and now all of a sudden you can't do the same thing. It's frustrating because you don't know really what's happened at the time either, right? It's frustrating.
Because I knew what it takes to be a success in the league, and it's like it's very hard work, and and you got to be brutal to yourself. More
Yeah, you really do. Yeah, it's kind of like you're kind of selfish in a way, like in a good way, that you have to be so focused on your career that everything else kind of gets pushed to the side. Yeah.
So my last job before I moved back to Sweden, well, I got divorced in 1996, but I had a really good job.
Just one divorce, Alfie?
Yeah.
So you got to pick up your game.
Amateur.
Yeah, really. What do you think? I've got two of them.
You're leading me.
Yeah.
Finally leading at something.
Go for it. You can get another one in there.
But I felt they were so expensive.
Oh, yes, they are. Yeah. That's what it makes. See, here's the good thing, though. Everybody says, okay, are you mad that all these guys now make all this money? And I go, no, because my ex-wife would have got it all anyways. I would have like a quarter of it. So.
But anyway, so I was working for a Swedish consulting firm.
Oh.
And that really saved me in those days. Like, because you know how expensive it is to live in New York.
Yeah.
You see it.
Yeah. How many grandkids do you have?
5.
Oh, wow. Good job. Good. How old are they?
My daughter has a 25-year-old boy.
Oh, wow.
Studying and going to school and working a little bit. His father is Jewish, so he's in Tel Aviv.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And then Daniel, that unfortunately passed away, 16, had 3 kids. Yeah. And the oldest one was born on my 60th birthday.
Oh, is that right? Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Michael, my oldest son, his son turned 2 in December 1st when I was over. So that was kind of fun.
So all the grandkids and everything are over here, North America. Oh, I guess the other one's in Tel Aviv. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was up and I drove up to Schenectady and stayed with Michael in Norwalk, Connecticut.
Nice. Didn't call me. I didn't get a phone call or anything like that one.
No, I could have called Connect.
The coach, that kind of stuff?
No. Yeah. I had it.
Yeah. So not just physically, but mentally, you had enough of the game.
Yeah.
Are you following anybody these days? Any teams?
Well, when I come over, I usually go to a Ranger game. But NHL has such a great website now.
Yeah.
When you go in there, you see all the highlights and everything like that. And usually I just follow the Swedish kids more than Winnipeg and the Rangers. Like,
what do you think of the game now? Where it's changed?
I think the players are so much better trained than we were.
Yeah.
And the equipment are almost dangerous now. Their shoulder pad, it's like real weapons. Like So and this 2-line pass that they allow now. So the speed of the game is almost too fast. It's becoming like in the days when we were playing college games. They said, well, they always rush and it's up tempo all the time and things like that. And that's the way it is today. But there are some amazing talent.
Oh, I know. Some of these kids are so talented, right? You watch Connor McDavid skate, and sometimes he doesn't move his feet, and he's still going fast.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Did you train quite a bit, Alfie, during the summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what made us successful in Winnipeg, that we were always in much better shape than the North American players.
Yeah, because back then, in the old days, it was the guys who show up to training camp fat and out of shape, have that long training camp, work themselves into shape.
Yeah, but I see now the Swedish guys that are playing in the NHL, they have their own personal trainer.
Yeah.
And they work out 5-6 guys here in Stockholm, and I see them close by where I live in a park where they do a lot of exercises outside and things like that. So they work really hard.
Yeah. And they got their own dietitians and everything too, so eat healthy and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ulf, you look back at your career. I mean, you've done a lot, right? Coming from Sweden, going to Winnipeg at the WHA. That was wild days in the WHA back then, as far as fighting and everything. You fight yourself through that. Come to New York, go through, now you're Dennis Potvin, all that stuff that goes on. Any regrets in your career at all?
Not at all. Not at all. It was like it was a fairy tale, I think.
Yeah.
Like
cool.
when you're 13, lose your father. And
Yeah.
my mom was housewife at the time. Then you're happy that you grow up in a society like Sweden where you have a little bit of a safety net.
Right.
So, hockey is giving me so much. It's,
Right.
Yeah. No, it's, well, I wish I had done certain things a little differently, but the way my life is right now, because 1998, I had a blind date with a girl, another Swedish girl,
right,
and on a golf course, and she's 4 handicap, so she had to give me a few strokes, and so. But since then, we've been a couple, and the first year we commuted between New York and Stockholm.
Oh,
I flew back every other week to Stockholm, and she flew back
every other
week to New York.
So she's from New York?
No, she's from Stockholm.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay,
so I lived in.
Gotcha.
This was 98.
Yep, gotcha.
And then I asked my kids if they were going to be upset if I moved back to Sweden, but they were pretty grown up. And
right.
So actually, Daniel, my youngest son, he went back with me to Sweden.
Very good. Nice.
So he was in Sweden for 2 years before he then went back to go to school in Florida.
So what's next, Rolf? Did you get remarried then?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Congratulations.
We got remarried in 1999.
Wow.
So my first marriage lasted 22 years.
Right.
Now I'm on 23 with my second wife.
Oh, my God. Closing in.
Yeah.
Has your golf game improved?
No.
That still beats you?
That's why I'm trying to get better if I get new shoulders.
That's right. So, okay, I don't want to make fun of you, but you're going to be the bionic man. You've had 2 new knees, right? You got a new hip, and now you're coming back to New York to get 2 new shoulders done.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I'll do them in Sweden.
Oh, you get that in
Sweden? Have insurance in the States.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Sure. So what's next after that? The brain? You're going to get that replaced? Or?
Well, no, that's still working pretty good.
I know. You're a smart man. I was always impressed by you. You're an intelligent, like I said before, you're that intelligent, classy guy hanging around with a bunch of muttheads.
But it was great when Anders and I came the first year with Duge and Grant and those guys. Yeah. It was Studio 54.
That's right.
And it's all these stories with who were the girls that they saw the night before. And then Murdoch came back after sitting out 40 games or something like that.
That's right. He's really cleaned his life up now. Don Murdoch. I spoke to him about a year ago, and he's really doing well. Cleaned himself up totally. Yeah.
But more importantly,
Canada?
Yeah.
Can you give us some Studio 54 stories?
I know
one good one.
You were but it was like a lot of times it was like, what's his name? Leroy Neiman came a lot of, and the Warhol was a lot of our games with Richard Weissman. That was the snowman in New York.
That's right. I guess Doogie was telling me the Garden, like Sonny Werblin, really wanted him on page 6, like you talked before, like with Joe Namath. They wanted him in Studio 54. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you see Gresh a lot now?
Gresh lives right in the same condominium complex beside it. But he's really, health-wise, he's had a hard time getting around now. He's got a bad hip. He had open heart surgery over a year ago, I guess.
Yeah.
So he's had a little bit of a tough stretch. He'd had a heart attack about 6 or 7 years prior to that. But yeah, he's still going. He's goes to a lot of games. He's in the Delta Club there all the time. He's kind of the mayor of the Delta Club.
Yeah.
He's doing well.
He never gets out of the Delta Club.
Oh, no, it's true. Yeah.
He doesn't need a seat.
I know. He is. And that's kind of like everybody knows they all want to go to the Delta Club and hang out with Gresh, have a couple cocktails. How's Anders doing? I heard his health was not that good.
He came down with kind of a leukemia.
Oh,
That is treatable, but he has to have medicine for the rest of his life, I think.
oh, okay. Is he still scouting? He was scouting, right?
Yeah, but he's not involved in hockey anymore.
Okay.
Either.
Wow.
And you heard what happened to Börje Salmi.
Yes, I saw that. And it was,
So-
yeah, because he just like the week before had been in Toronto. I know he couldn't speak at that point, but it seemed like his health was at least, it was sustainable.
Yeah.
So, well, what was he like as a person? I never really got to know him at all.
Oh,
You
he
guys pretty close?
Nice guy.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Like low key, really. Like he
Right.
didn't speak up in the dressing room or anything like that, but he just he spoke on the ice with his.
Pretty much. I think I can't think of a Swede that I could not say this about. The Swedes, all the Swedes that I knew, including yourself, were all total gentlemen, great team players, like Jan Eriksson, Thomas Sandstrom, those kind of guys.
Yeah. Oh, you played with them, yeah.
Yeah, Jan Eriksson was what a great guy he was, man. What a good defensive forward, like a real team player. Thomas Sandstrom, he was the one. I'll tell you, he had a little fire to him though. He couldn't speak English at first, and he was a competitor, and he would compete in practice just as much as he did in the game. And we're like, what is wrong with this guy? Like Glennie Hamlin. Did you play with Glennie?
Yeah.
So Glennie chased Thomas Sandstrom around practice a couple times one practice. And Thomas would go in and shoot the score. He didn't care if he was going top corner or bottom corner.
Yeah.
Glennie was already mad at him about something, and I'll never forget him chasing around twice in practice. We settled him down the first time, then Thomas came in and fired another one at his head, and Glennie went nuts again. But once we got to know Thomas, do you know him at all?
Yeah, I know a little bit. I never played because I had retired.
Yeah. He ended up being a great team player too. I played with him here and then in L.A. as well.
Yeah,
and he was really good. Yeah, the Swedes were. Why is that? I wonder. Like it just seems like I don't. They think I've ever met a Swede that was not a great team player, a real gentleman. Is there something about the culture?
I think that's the Swedish society is a little bit like. I think the most important thing is the team for us.
Yeah,
and everybody wants to do well on the team, but if the team is not winning, no one is winning, sort of.
Sure,
but in North America, sometimes guys are happy if they score 4 goals from off by 4.
Yeah, that is true. There's some of that.
Yeah,
definitely.
But I think that's the upbringing, really.
So, if you were 8 years old, if somebody had told you that you're going to lead the life that you ultimately led, would you believe them?
No.
Yeah,
that's so far.
I know.
Far away. When I was 8, I wanted to make the senior team in my hometown.
Right.
That was how far I could see.
Yeah. It is funny because I go and do this motivational speaking now, and I see that people, you got a dream, you got to follow the dream and everything. And my dream, from all of us, I guess, I was 6 years old. I remember writing a letter in school that I was going to play in the National Hockey League, but I couldn't skate at that time. So I'm sure my parents are looking at me like there's something wrong with this kid because he can't skate.
Ulf, were you a better soccer player or hockey player?
Well, some people in Sweden say that I was, but I don't know. I don't regret that either, that I didn't choose soccer.
Where could you have gone to soccer? You could have played pro, yeah, obviously the pro leagues, right? You could have played.
Well, yeah, a lot of the Swedes now are playing in England and Italy and France, and so.
But they weren't paying $600,000 a season, though.
No, well, some now are making more than the hockey players really in the NHL. I know the Norwegian guy in Manchester City. I don't know how much he makes. He makes that per week.
Yeah. It's funny. I think back to Winnipeg having that clause in there where they had the right to match. They didn't think that through too clearly, right? Because obviously with a team like the Rangers, which ultimately signed with, they're going to say, listen, we're going to pay them whatever we have to make sure that they can't match, right?
Yeah. But to be honest, I think Anders and I and Don Basley, we were so surprised that Sonny Werbin was that smart. Because in the end, it wasn't very much money to Madison Square Garden.
Right, totally. And that's the thing. Like, they probably made more money because they're filling the building now, and they market names, all that. Yeah.
So, can you just give us one Bobby Hull story before we let you go?
Well,
they're all X-rated. You can't. He's a character, man. He's funny.
Yeah, but we were up in Canada. Was that a month and a half ago? Because they had the 50th anniversary when WHA started.
Oh.
And Bobby is not doing well these days.
Oh.
He's having a hard time getting around. So we were up in Quebec City, the whole line of us, and then we signed a lot of autographs and things like that. And then we went to Winnipeg for 2-3 days, and then we ended up going to Whistler because that's where they had the big event.
Nice.
And I was babysitting there for 3 days.
Was Bobby sitting? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you remember? So it's Phil's last year. So he retired halfway through my first year. So I'm sitting behind in the old Madison Square Garden locker room. I'm sitting beside Anders, and his wife is giving birth.
Yeah.
So he's going to get undressed at the end of this first period and go to the hospital. And Phil Esposito's sitting across. And now Phil is old school, right?
Yeah.
And he now starts yelling at Anders. He's mad at Anders as he's leaving during the game. Yeah. And I'm sitting there as a young player. I'm thinking, this is unbelievable. Phil's losing his mind on the other side of the locker room. And Anders, to his credit, he said, no, I'm a family guy. You know, and he'd proven what a great team player he was. So there's no question about that.
Yeah.
So he was going to leave the first period, go to his wife and child, which I thought, you know, I kind of saw both sides.
That was his first child.
Was his first too? Yeah. Were you in the locker room then? Were you there?
I don't remember that.
Oh, God. It was one of those things I'll never forget because I can look at Phil and he's looking at Anders right beside me. And I'm thinking, this is wild. Like Phil Esposito's losing his mind here. Yeah. But you know, I actually saw both sides of it because Phil was that old school guy, probably saying, oh, what difference is it going to make if I'm there or not? The baby's coming out no matter what.
Yeah.
But Anders is that great family guy. But again, to Anders' credit, he'd also proven what a great team player he was too. So, well, listen, Ulf, like I've said to you many times here in the show, and I probably never said it to you enough when we played together, but I really always respected you, both on and off the ice. You know, you're a real gentleman, classy guy, and had a great career too. So I'm glad it's from
borrow money.
Maybe if I get divorced again, I might have to borrow some money. Huh?
Yeah.
No, you did though. You're
I'm blushing when you say those things.
Well, you were. I'm telling you, seriously. I think back to myself what a bunch of muttheads we were, and here's this gentleman there. So,
I don't know about that though.
Yeah, you were. Well, it's great to see you again. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Real honor to have you on. You had a fantastic career, great life, still going strong.
Thanks, Ulf.
All right, brother.
I'm following you every morning.
You better be. All right, brother.
Thanks, Ulf.
Good talking to you.
Obviously, I'm the fan here. You're the pro because you tell us all the time. But
you know, I was on Survivor too.
Were you?
Yeah.
Wow. You tell us about when you signed the contract, or when you got drafted, and your dad told you to go back into the barn.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
So when I guess I was 8. I was in 3rd grade. I remember they had signed Ulf Nilsson, Anders Hedberg, and I told my teacher, Miss Milestone, I'm Swedish. I didn't know where it was. I had no clue. I did a project on Swedish hut life because they all lived in huts, but it was because of Anders Hedberg and Ulf Nilsson. I just wanted to be Swedish in 1979. So it was cool to talk to him and hear stories.
Yeah, what a great guy. What a great life. I didn't realize all the things, you know, coming over, like playing hockey in Sweden, coming over to WHA in Winnipeg, and then making it to the Rangers, and all the process to get to the Rangers and how much money it was and everything. So, yeah, really interesting story. Great guy. I really, I told him at the end of the show, and I think he kind of got embarrassed, but I really respected him a ton, still do.
Plus, he made $600K when you were making, what, $42,000?
That's amazing that it got that high back in, 1978. Wow.
But you guys didn't have any clue, right?
Yeah, well, I think theirs got public because they wanted it to be public, but everybody else was like, nobody knew what I made. We didn't have salary disclosure at all.
So was he buying dinners for you guys, or how'd that work?
He was pretty good with that. Yeah, he was good. Like having us over for tea parties and stuff. Yeah, both him and Anders were great teammates. The Swedes, we touched on the show, but the Swedes I played with were all fantastic.
Awesome episode.
All right, Grasshoppers, thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.